All right, guys. Dreadnought's back today with another review, and this is going to be a 2-for-1 on the Walmart exclusive Star Wars The Black Series Kylo Ren and First Order Stormtrooper here. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Taking a closer look at these boxes, you can see they're just like miniaturized of the 6-inch scale, but the boxes are a little bit different. And I'll do a little comparison here so you can see the artwork is actually different on these smaller boxes. But I think it is cool that it looks like just miniaturized 6-inch Black Series boxes scaled down. I kind of like that. So nice artwork here on both of them. Taking a look at the sides here. Not much going on. They don't have figure numbers, which I thought was a little bit weird. Since we know this is the second wave, I would think the figures would be numbered, but it does have their names there. And there's a look at the back of the boxes. If you want to read those bios, you can pause it and do so now. So let's crack these bad boys open and get a look at them. And here's our Kylo and First Order Stormtrooper out of the package. And since these are 3 3/4 inch, I did want to put their 5 points of articulation counterparts here in the back so we could do some quick comparisons as we look at these. But overall, they're looking pretty cool. Definitely liking the Stormtrooper here. But I'm not sure I like the amount of cloth they used on Kylo. And if you watch my channel, you know I am a fan of soft goods as long as it's in the right balance. But honestly, I think this is excessive. I think they use too much on Kylo here. It just hides the figure. Honestly, it's just way too much. Also, poses problems with him standing, as you can see there, because of the weight of the cloth. Probably in this situation, they probably shouldn't have used any. Soft goods on 3 3/4 inch figures are a hard sell for me. I'm not a big fan of them or fan of it on those. So let's get some closer looks at both of these. And up first, we take a look at Kylo's accessories. You can see here his lightsaber. Looking pretty good. Good sculpt overall. The energy sculpted in here. It's made out of translucent plastic. Looks like it's all one piece, and they painted over for the hilt. Does have a little detail in here. It's got a red stripe, which we saw on the Kmart exclusive Kylo Ren 6-inch, and then there's a red dot there at the end that we've seen on all of them. Also came with an extra hilt without the blade, and it has the same stripe in it. Nicely sculpted, red dot on the end of it as well. Looks good. I like it. In comparison to our toy one, our kids' toy version, you can see a little bit of difference. This one's a lighter shade of silver. Doesn't have the stripe, doesn't have the detail in it. But they are pretty much the same mold. And this one, actually, the red in it is a little bit deeper on this one. So there's a look at that. And as we take a closer look at Kylo himself, looking very nice, very well sculpted. Nice head sculpt in here, nice silver paint apps through there. Looking at the back, all the wrinkles and texture sculpted in where it's tattered. Just looks really great. If we compare it to this, though, you can see it is a new sculpt. There is about the same amount of detail in here, but this one's actually kind of up over the shoulder. It has more, wind-blown look to it, I guess you could say. Both of them are nice, but this one definitely has some more detail sculpted in. And there's a look at the front. The fronts are virtually the same. Looks like they got the same paint apps. Some of the mask is a little more detailed, and this comes down more on our Black Series version than this one on our toy version. And then looking through here, you can see the chest is different as well. Actually, our toy version got more sculpting, which I think is a little bit weird. This is more flat. Maybe they're trying to be more movie accurate over here, but this one actually got more wrinkles sculpted in on it. Also got more sculpting around the top of the shoulder here, which I thought was weird. This one got less. Our Black Series got less sculpting. Paint apps on the belt. Our Black Series looks a little more defined. I like that look. Looks really good, clean. This one's just silver. This one's actually got some black brushing, it looks like, in there. The ribs on the arms are pretty much the same down through there. The hands are bigger on this one. They definitely didn't use the same sculpts, so for anybody that was curious about that, they are different. It looks like this is all new. The cloth, of course, is what we saw on the 6-inch Black Series, and I'm just going to put this one to the side because none of this is the same. If you want to see that review, that one's up on my channel. But as we look under here, underneath the cloth, some nice sculpting under here, but this cloth is just so large. You can see nice ribbed, on here. Looks good. Around the back, some nice wrinkles sculpted in on the legs. You know, looking really nice. Nice sculpting around there. It's all black, no paint apps, you know. And then if we look at articulation, the head doesn't really rotate. It moves a little bit, but it doesn't really rotate a whole bunch there. The arms do move out a good bit and move up. It does have rotation all the way around. Single joint at the elbow and does rotate. The wrist does swivel. You can see there. It does have waist rotation. No ab crunch or anything. And then under here with the legs. And I'm not a huge fan of articulation on Star Wars figures. Honestly, I think Hasbro does a better job with the Joe figures. But it does have the hinge and does really rotate up like that. Rotates around somewhat. But you can get the legs to do the splits like so, which looks a little funky on him. These knee joints are what I really can't stand. You can't even get them 90 degree. You know, you can try to turn them backwards as well. But I hate the knee joints on these Star Wars 3 3/4 inch figures. The feet do have the hinge. Doesn't allow much movement there. And then they do rotate around on the feet. No pivot, of course. But yeah, overall pretty good, solid. Looking pretty good. And as we look at our Stormtrooper here and his accessories, you can see the blaster is pretty nicely sculpted. Actually has a little bit of even silver paint apps in there, so they did it justice. Most of it's white and black, just a little bit of silver on there. And it is the same blaster that our kids' toy 3 3/4 inch version uses, the 5 points of articulation version. So, you know, it's the same mold, but just got a few more paint apps there. This one actually comes with the hand gun, the hand blaster as well, which I think is cool because this one did not. So that's an added bonus, and it does plug in just like on the 6-inch Black Series. Plugs into the side of the leg, so looking pretty cool there. So I think that's a nice addition. And looking at the figure overall, you know, it got kind of some sloppy paint apps, but let's just look at it in comparison to our other one over here. You can see the sculpting on the head is pretty much the same. The difference is, you know, they got better paint apps on this one. You can see there is some white separation underneath or above the goggles, underneath the ridge of the helmet, whereas this was all painted solid black. You know, you can see some additional paint apps on the chest and here on this piece as well, painted over here. And these are different molds through the body. But one thing that I think is different, the head sculpts are virtually the same. But I don't think you can notice it on here, but this is definitely a smoother finish on here, whereas this is very rough. It's like this, the kids' toy, the 5 POA, didn't get like a clear coat over the figure maybe, and the Black Series does, so it definitely has a more shininess to it, and it's smoother in the texture, so I like that. As far as articulation wise, we'll put this guy down because really this is all new sculpt over here in comparison to that. The head's really the only thing that seemed to share any kind of sculpting at all. But you know, very nice articulation on this figure. You can get the arms up a pretty good amount on one side. And for some reason the plate stops it on the other. It doesn't go in. But you know, rotates all the way around. Does have the 90 degree and bends here. It has the wrist swivel. And it has this diaphragm joint. But the only problem with it is it's extremely loose, man. It just really bobbles around. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of that. As far as the head articulation, I forgot to mention it. It does have that pivot in there, and it does rotate all the way around. It's on a ball, so you know you can look up a good amount and look down, you know, into the chest, you know. But anyway, looking at the legs, you know, it's where this one gets funky, just like with Kylo. You can play with the legs and get them up like so. It doesn't really kick out because of the plate stopping it and the belt through here. You know, so not much there. Well, we lost our gun. One thing I do want to say on the paint apps, though, while we're down here at the waist, is you can definitely see the whites painted over the black, so it's not real clean there. And like I said, just a little bit sloppy on this figure. You see definitely down in here around the legs, and I looked at several of these. This is one of the best ones. The white actually bleeds over into the black through here, and there's some black bleeding over into the white. So that tends to be where they get the sloppiest, right down in here around his crotch. So not sure why. But the knee joints has the same funky knee joints, and they're a little bit, it doesn't get 90 degree at the knee. I hate these knee joints. I'm sorry. I just do. But it does rotate like so. Rotates around there, and then the foot is on the hinge as well. This one does have a lot more movement though, and it does turn around like so, just like on the Kylo. So overall, I like it, and I think it got some decent articulation. And here's our 3 3/4 inch Black Series compared to our 6 inch here on the end. Overall, I gotta say I like the Stormtrooper. I think it came out pretty well. I like the articulation. It's not perfect, but I'm not a huge fan of Hasbro's Star Wars 3 3/4 inch articulation. Anyway, I have a huge problem with those knee joints. But that aside, there were a few sloppy paint apps, and I don't like the looseness of the diaphragm, but hopefully that's a one-off on this figure. But overall, I got to say, nice attention to detail in the figure, came out looking pretty good. I also like the fact that you can use these guys, kind of the troop build, the cheap guys, and just put them behind these guys, and I don't think it looks that bad. You definitely can tell they're not quite as shiny, but I think you could troop build the cheap ones and then pose the ones in the front. And if you guys watch my videos, you know I like the troop build, so that's a cool bonus for me. Now moving on to the Kylo, not happy with this figure overall. I just don't like the use of soft goods, and with these knee joints on this figure, it makes him incredibly hard to pose, honestly. Just doesn't work out real well. If I had to have kind of a wish list for this figure, I probably wish Hasbro had made him more like this one. A good balance of soft goods here, in my opinion. You can barely see the soft goods on the front. They just add some accent to it. And sorry, mine's a little twisted and stuff from posing over years. But also I like the hand gesture more on this. Reaching out, using the force or whatever. Other than this, more closed hand back here on this one. And he's just going to do a flip. Like I said, he's incredibly hard to stand. I guess this is for gripping the lightsaber in the other hand if you want to, but honestly, I would have, or I guess he could grip it in both hands, but I would have liked to have had a gesture hand on there, and this just doesn't come out good for me at all. I would have rather had no soft goods than this. It just hides the figure, it hides the sculpt, and you really can't see it. So overall, I'm not pleased with this one. If you're a 3 3/4 inch collector, though, sadly, this is probably the figure you're going to have to get, unless you're okay with getting the kids' version over here, which is not a bad figure. If you're just going to stand them and pose them, this one's actually well sculpted. Like I said, I've got a review on the channel of that one if you want to take a look at it. But I'm just not overly pleased with this one. So in my mind, this one's a buy, and this one is a pass unless you're a 3 3/4 inch collector and have to have a Kylo in your collection. I understand you're going to want one with some articulation, so that's your choice right now until something better comes along. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. If so, please give me a big thumbs up. If you guys like what you're seeing, please subscribe. Plenty more content coming down the road for you. Plenty more videos, especially as we lead up towards Christmas. Facebook, Twitter, Toy Art links in the description below as always, so check me out there if you hadn't already. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the comments of late, and we'll see you soon.